What is one must-watch cartoon show? My time has come. Cracks Knuckles, Avatar. The Last Airbender, Avatar. Legend of Korra, try to get it shot, it's overly hated Imho. Dragon Prince, Samurai Jack. Dexter's Lab, Gravity Falls. Grim Adventures of Billy and Mandy. Powerpuff Girls, 1990s one. Danu Phantom, S1 and S2 only. My Life as a Teenage Robot. Adventure Time, The Owl House. Infinity Train. Regular Show. Ghost and Molly McGee. Steven Universe. She-Ra and the Princesses of Power, Netflix version. Phineas and Ferb. My moment has come. Cracks Knuckles, Avatar. The Last Airbender, Avatar. Legend of Korra, Reboot. Gravity Falls. Adventure Time, The Owl House. Infinity Train. Regular Show. Tales of Arcadia Trilogy. Steven Universe. Voltron. Legendary Defender, Netflix series. She-Ra and the Princesses of Power, Netflix version. The Legend of Vox Machina. Adventure Time is excellent. If you're comfortable with non-sequiturs. The first season seems like a regular kids' cartoon. But after that it develops a more comprehensive story that is told through 12-minute vignettes. They don't seem to be connected. But the longer you watch, the more complex and interconnected everything becomes. BoJack Horseman. Don't let the first few episodes fool you. This isn't just an attempt at dark humor following an anti-protagonist. BoJack is an in-depth, raw examination of addiction and mental illness with some jokes mixed in. This show helped me express some of my own shit in words when I'd never been able to explain it before. Find grammar Nazis extremely pretentious. I feel like you intentionally wrote this to annoy grammar Nazis. The problem with bad grammar though, is it can sometimes completely change the meaning of the sentence and cause confusion. We all should strive to communicate clearly, and that can sometimes require proper grammar. But there are times it's not necessary to correct something that everyone clearly understands. And you shouldn't interrupt someone unless you need to understand what is being said. It's not a cultural thing, and the excuse of not having a good education in the information age isn't really a good excuse. When someone doesn't capitalize anything, it becomes harder to read and makes me think the person doesn't care that much about the point they're trying to make because it just seems low effort. The less you use correct grammar and spelling, the more correct usages you won't remember. I'm trying to increase my overall knowledge, not let it slip through the cracks of my fingers. That's just my opinion. Though, none of that may matter to someone else. I might be biased, but I studied linguistics and these kinds of mistakes irritate me to no end. I will not actively correct anyone who does not ask me to. However, where does it end? I know there are certain contexts where spelling and grammar aren't the most important things to focus on. But I always think like this: if people aren't able to write/spell correctly in this informal situation, when are they? People who make spelling and grammatical mistakes in a professional environment actually piss me off. I also don't understand why the situational excuse is used so much. Because writing correctly isn't that big of a hassle. And it should just come naturally. But again, I might be biased. What are some principles that guide your ethical and moral compass? There are none. My moral compass determines everything in this regard. It is internalized and determines what I believe to be ethical, including principles. It has gotten in my way plenty of times in business when what I see as unethical is commonplace and principles are skewed to favor the top down. I have had ample opportunity to do things seen as susceptible in society by most but refuse because it goes against my moral fiber. That's okay. It just doesn't work for me. I try to act/live in such a way that if everyone did what I did, the world would be a better place. That means recycling when possible. Returning your card at the grocery store. Being a courteous and predictable driver that uses turn signals. Being kind. Giving to charity. Planting native plants for pollinators. Mindful consumerism. Voting in favor of human rights or policies that help people. And a million other things. But that is the guiding principle. What is the altruistic while reasonable choice? Honesty and respect are two big ones. Which I of course might populate with a different meaning than some others. But for me there is another big one. That I need to remind me to look inwards and not just outward. I can't prioritize everyone else, and work, over me. I call it living by the diving and airplane rule and quat. You have to save yourself before you can even attempt to save anyone else. You can easily exchange save to prioritize. This is not equal to always putting myself before others. Or above. Just that I cannot put myself last. I need to be more important to me than anyone else. Why does it seem like being traditionally masculine is looked upon so negatively nowadays? If you are who you are and someone is mad about that because they think you're being too masculine, and it seems like they're playing the stereotype game. The fact that it's tradition is the issue. Men are discouraged from being emotionally available or passive or sensitive. And that needs to not happen. There's nothing wrong with fitting that mold, but there's a problem when people are historically forced into that mold. And also because traditional masculinity tends to come with traditional men's attitudes towards women. Which is a whole can of worms. It's not. Except when it comes with negative consequences. For example, being stoic often leads to men not being able to process their emotions properly. Even on the less extreme ends. Greater than it seems like most of the discourse around masculinity these days is negative. It's explicitly aimed at the negative aspects. Not masculinity as a whole. There is nothing wrong with being traditionally masculine and quat. The problem comes with those that are also intolerant of those that aren't and treat others that they are wrong or don't belong. Everyone should be who they are and not be ridiculed or ostracized for it. If you're masculine, be masculine. If you are feminine, be feminine. If you are neither and somewhere in the middle, be that. I completely agree with what you're saying. I'm guessing it's stereotypical or something. You're in a box now as this type, and this type usually look down on women or think they are less than. Masculinity is good. Femininity is good. It's when it becomes toxic that it's a problem. Don't worry about what other people think. Does it affect you? Lots of women still dream of being a stay-at-home mom with a masculine man to provide. We just hear everyone's ideas now, and it's usually the more rare cases we hear the most because no one talks about the normal. That's boring.